Today's work session is on the revising the rules of the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners. The last time revised was January 3rd, 2019. And before that was January 3rd, 2013. So we had the opportunity to go through this at another work session once already. And there's some good suggestions that came out of that. So the idea of the corporate council to take those suggestions, recommendations, and go through it one more time. And since there was a lot of changes and recommendations, we felt necessary to have another board work session on this before we present it under Ways and Means for approval at committee level. The document in front of you right now is redlined, and it shows a lot of suggestions throughout that process. Mr. Homier will step us through this. I'm going to try to get through this in an hour at least, page by page. So if there's anything that pops up, please let us know what that might be. With that being said, start on page 6.
No, I think most of these the board has seen before, so I just wanted to get a comprehensive document, and we can talk about any of the various provisions that you see in front of you, or things that may have caused you some concern. I don't think there's anything controversial, at least on page 6.
Page 7, Rule 1, discussing meetings.
Is there a reason why we X'd out the schedule? Right here? It says the schedule of the regular meetings shall be set by a resolution.
I think maybe that's because at the last year, we changed our meeting schedule around, and it really, so we,
Earlier?
yeah, and we also changed it so that we combined a couple meetings, so we didn't have so many meetings.
It allows the flexibility.
It
I remember,
allows
right, that's how we
flexibility.
discussed it. It allowed flexibility in our schedule. If we set it up early, like the whole year ahead, it gets pretty tied to it.
Although I don't mind, at least a month ahead of time.
Right.
Would be nice to have.
Well, it just, for planning vacations and stuff like that.
That's true.
It really is useful to at least have a skeleton schedule that may change, but,
Well, I think the word here was it was a resolution. We don't actually need a resolution for
Or a
our
rule.
scheduling. And that's if you look at what was lined out, it says a resolution. Not a schedule. We're still gonna have a schedule.
So we're gonna have a schedule for the year,
Oh,
not
yeah.
month to month.
That's what
Yeah, month
Lisa's
to
actually
month
been
can't
working
work.
on now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just that word resolution was in there, and that was,
I have a question on this one, on section number 3. Board of Commissioners shall convene and holds organizational meeting at the first meeting of every year. This meeting shall be known as, and the county clerk shall preside at the beginning of the organizational meeting. Do we still need that if we have the same chairman as?
No, you will, because it's the organization. I think that's by law.
Okay, I didn't know when I was just checking that.
And I think, going back to the previous one, I think you do need to adopt a regular meeting schedule for the year. But that does not have to be necessarily adopted by resolution, and that's pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, so.
And I'd just like to say that because you were granted a 2-year term, that means that you will be chairing the organizational meeting on a 2-year term. In the past, we've had commissioners that only elected them for 1 year. So then at the end of that year, that term ended for the chairman. And then I would be the one that called it to order until they elected a new one. But because they gave you a 2-year term, she would be chairing the organizational meeting.
Okay.
For any purposes of adopting your calendar, giving your administrator authority to sign things and do things and
That's what I
all of the
wondered.
housekeeping, but you would chair that.
But you will do it every 2 years.
Well,
Or the clerk will.
assuming they give the next chair a 2-year term,
Right.
they may choose to only give the chair a 1-year term.
That's true.
If it's a 1-year term and you only had a 1-year term, I would be
As
doing
as
the
long as there's
organization.
not a sitting chair.
Mhm, for a 2-year term.
Okay.
Because the term
Okay.
expires at the end of the first year, and then you elect a new one if it's a 1-year term.
Okay.
It'd be better to go with the 2-year term.
It does add continuity, that's for sure. You're right.
So on page 8, there's a continuation of that discussion on the 8.
And I think we all know that that would be, if there was not a signature.
Right. So section 4, annual meeting.
On special meetings, it says the county board of commissioners may hold special meetings when necessary, at the times and places it finds convenient, and may adjourn from time to time as it considers necessary. I don't understand what that means. I mean, we just adjourn a meeting and start it up again some other time?
You can recess special meetings for a period of time without the necessity of renoticing that. I
I see.
believe that it's 36 hours under the
Oh,
Open
okay.
Meetings Act.
Okay, so if we had a tornado or something.
Or if the meeting ran long,
Yeah, okay.
and you adjourned or
I
recessed
see.
that, you could continue that on a
I
different
see.
day.
Oh, that's a good idea, thank you. Yeah.
The part that was crossed out is replaced with that whole paragraph.
You're talking about under annual meeting.
8, 9,
Okay.
section 5.
What would have been nice in the past, we would always try to attach the statute, because a lot of things that are in your rules that you're adopting are mandatory by law, but he's not showing statute, so you may think it's optional, and he may be relying on the statutes that are saying this is how it's to be done.
But as long as we put them in this, that's the way it will be done.
Yeah, as long as you understand
Okay,
that
that
it's
they are,
by
of course.
statutes,
Some
then
of
you
them
may
are
think you
plenty.
can change, but
Okay.
it may be statutorily that you do it this way or this way or this way.
So Nancy, question, in past, did they state statute
We
right at
used
the
to
start?
state the statute so that you know that it was statutory, and if you wanted to go to the statute, you could go to the statute and look for yourself, but I don't think they've done that in the last time around or this time. But that's why I just wanted to call it to your attention. That's why when I knew about the person that had a 2-year term would be able to do the organizational meeting, because I don't do it. And I looked to see, and there's no statute there, and that would tell you that type of situation.
Yes,
Yeah, on the annual meeting section 4, is there a reason why we removed the reviewing of the budget for that?
I think because we do it in September.
Yeah, our budget ends basically on October 1st now, not January.
Yeah,
Right.
I
So,
think that's why we had that changed. So we would do it in September and approve it for the new fiscal year that starts October 1st.
Yeah.
yeah, we're not on a calendar year budget.
No, I know that, I just wondered why it looked like the annual meeting was the purpose of passing the review of the budget.
And I also think that that would be a good idea not to do it then, because you could have brand new commissioners that are gonna need a little time to get up to speed on it.
Right, so by doing it in September, early October like that, yes, you're not hit with it right away when you first come in. But back on the statutory, would it be, and I'm asking the board this, would it be advisable if we put that back in? It would just be a little paragraph on the side or something?
Put what back
You
in?
mean the
The
budget?
state statutory, this is required.
Well, I
It
don't
doesn't
think,
state that in ours no
So
more.
in reference to the Open Meetings Act, but we could put a section here.
I'm just curious if
Yeah, the only issue with doing that is occasionally, not too often, but statutes change, and depending on the timing of those rules, then you would have to go look then anyways.
So it would be your recommendation to not do it?
Well, I'm not sure that it's necessary. I mean, think about it this way. For special meetings, you always have to have at least 18 hours notice, and there are things in the Open Meetings Act where it says you must post, right? On the door or where you regularly post, plus on your website for special meetings. That is not likely to change. I'm happy to include the statutory reference if you'd like, or refer to it simply as the Open Meetings Act, so. I mean,
I'm just curious, that's why I'm
It's up to
asking the
you.
board for open
I don't
conversation.
think it's necessary.
You don't feel
I agree
okay?
with Ken, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll,
I mean,
Count
if
on
it's
our
already in
counsel.
here, then I don't mind leaving it, but I don't think we need to go back through and put it on. And I noticed, Marcia, it says too, it tells about the annual meeting of the county records shall held each year after September 1st, and that's when the,
Before October.
yeah, I think that's when we get all of the financial stuff.
And then it goes on to discuss emergency meetings, and then going page 10 into regular meetings.
And this would be like an imminent threat to health or public safety, emergency meetings. I don't have a problem.
Have we ever done that?
We
At
had-
an emergency meeting?
I don't recall.
I don't recall either, but Ken's been there a lot longer than me. But I know
I
we
don't
have,
recall.
it seems like we did have some really bad storms and we did cancel some meetings. But that's been a while ago.
closed
It
the
very well could
courthouse.
happen this year.
We'll have
I
more.
think we closed the courthouse once, but
Yeah.
that's a problem because Chicago, the judges and the.
But it has to be cleared with the judges and the sheriff, I think, isn't he the one that makes that
We do,
decision?
judges,
Are we at 9 yet? Where are we right
Page, bottom of page 10, regular meetings.
Yeah,
Regular meetings.
and Marcia, I guess here for regular meetings, there should be posted within 10 days after the first meeting for which the resolution was approved, a public notice stating the dates, times, and places of the regular meetings. So, that's good, so that, you know, for everybody, public and members.
And number 9 is public comment.
Yeah, which is, did you take, I don't see a reason why they needed to be in there, but did you just take those out because they weren't necessary?
Well, some of them I think were problematic. Like, for instance, number 8. When we talk about public comment, and you try and discern language that is anger, rudeness, ridicule, right? Those are content-specific restrictions that may run afoul of First Amendment issues. And so that's why we removed those things. So what you see in front of you are public comment restrictions that have been upheld by the court. Say, for instance, this, and you notice this is
B.
second B,
Mhm.
right? Refrain from behavior which would cause a breach of the peace. That is a specific legal standard that has been upheld for curtailing public comment or removing people from the audience.
And the lettering is just a mis. oh,
Yes.
Yeah, it was good.
So we still have the public comment before the agenda item, on agenda items, and then one at the end. I can't tell with all the process and everything. We're still having both those?
that doesn't change the agenda.
Yeah, because I think you need that, you know, because they need to be able to discuss with us their opinions before they
Right.
make the vote, and afterwards they could have something totally different that we need to be able to.
Or they can
We
go
get
right
into
through
that.
vote.
That's true.
On number D, and this is only a question, where it says the comments to the commissioners, wouldn't it be better if it says to the chair?
It can.
That's what I'm asking out, because the commissioners is pretty a broad statement.
Yeah, and I really don't want them to attack an individual commissioner, I guess that's it.
So by focusing on the chair, the attention we're looking at, basically. Just a question.
That makes sense because the chair is the one that recognizes the
Right.
people who are doing the comment.
She's running, or he's running the meeting.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think that would remove some of the antagonism that goes on if they want to speak directly to the individual.
Right,
Right.
and you don't have them turning around talking to the audience.
Right.
But if I was at a public meeting and at public comment, and I said, and addressed my comments to the chair, but said, Commissioner Foster is not representing me or the other constituents in his district. That's a perfectly acceptable public comment.
mhm.
Sure, but
Yes.
it's addressed to the chair.
But it's
Correct.
addressed to the chair.
Yes, but I just want to be careful about when we talk about public comment and standards applicable to it, it's those types of comments that would breach the peace that are inappropriate. Not other comments that you might find embarrassing or make you angry. I mean, people have a right to make those comments regardless of whether or not you might agree or disagree with them.
But I still gotta go back to what Ken said, the chair is the one operating the meeting.
Yes.
I think that's the one that should be focused.
Yes, and I don't have any problem with that, and I've noted that change.
Well, that's
Yeah.
another discussion on it, it's up to you guys. I'm good with it.
I'm happy with you.
You're good with saying it again?
With it addressing the chair or to the commissioners, it's up to whatever we decide, but I just think that we need to think about it a little bit. Are we gonna be bringing this up, when do we vote on this?
Depends on if we did a consensus on this. Yeah.
Rich had a question.
Yeah, more lately, you have allowed us to speak at the end.
Yes.
Is that still allowed under this?
She gets into that, or gets into it.
Yes,
in the agenda.
we did put that in here, because I think that's an important.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
there is a board comment section.
And then,
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
right.
I don't think we should, get into an argument with the constituent, but,
No,
to
just to
explain.
kinda
our,
make a
yes, a blanket
statement.
statement that,
Right.
informs the corrects.
Are we gonna limit the board comments to only full board or to every committee?
Well, these rules will be applicable to committees, but when you're in, depending on that particular meeting, it's applicable to either those committee members and or board. So the rules are intended to apply to all of the committees and subcommittees, as well as the board.
And then they will be directing their comments to the chair of that committee.
Under,
So are we changing I'm sorry, go ahead, Marcia.
I wasn't called on here.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Under I, groups are encouraged to designate one or more individuals to speak on their behalf to avoid cumulative comments or duplicative comments. Cumulative doesn't, I'm not
Yeah, I
sure what
agree
that
with-
means. I think you mean,
I think it
or do you mean duplicate?
cumulative would be you keep adding to it, I think. You could put cumulative / duplicate.
You would think that would be opposite, because to me, that would be like saying, I'm giving Joe my 3 minutes and I'm giving Bill my, time.
Well, they could be, 2 minutes on one person, 2 minutes on the next person, 2 minutes on the next person.
Cumulative to me
Cumulative
means,
means you could
like
build
the
up the
people
minutes.
from Planned Parenthood, they were trying to read a thing and they would read for their 2 minutes and then somebody else would pick it up. That's what I would consider cumulative.
To me, that would mean I could give Zach my time, and real estate could give Zach her
But
time.
we don't
and then
allow
he would
that.
have 9 minutes.
We don't
We
allow
don't
that.
allow that.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. Cumulative to me means you could add that minutes to it.
I thought it meant, like, say 20 people would get up and say the exact same thing.
Which is what happened.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
and
I is unnecessary because it already says, however, there's no required to make such a designation. People are gonna do what they want to do.
That I got to agree with, it really
And
is.
so if they want to, they want to. If they don't, they don't. They should, it's up to the public how they
Then we
want.
sit
Right.
for 3 hours hearing the
Well,
same thing.
Yeah, 'cause-
That's fine, it just says groups are encouraged, and sometimes if it's the same message, you will have a spokesperson for the group say one thing.
And sometimes that's a lot more effective, because pretty soon you get tired of hearing 30 people say exactly the same pre-written thing, and you don't pay attention anymore. So
But Zach is
it would be-
exactly right.
Yeah.
It says you encourage them to, if they don't want it,
Yeah.
that's it.
So scratch I? So when-
Well, I don't know if I
I
can
don't
scratch
think
it.
there's a problem with it the way it is.
I think that
Cumulative might be a funny word. but-
irrespective
Yeah.
of whether I is included or not, you always have the right to ask people if they are representing a group, if they want to present a summary of all of those comments, they are encouraged, or it is helpful to do so. Whether or not they choose to do it is up to them. So,
And we could, in a hotly contested situation, have a form that said, so-and-so spoke on my behalf, and all the people could sign it, you know, too, so that we knew how many people supported that
See,
position.
that's where I think this has a lot of issues. We all got different opinions what it means. And not
Right,
maybe
I don't
this
think
time, but
cumulative
2 years from now or 3 years from now,
is
when this is
confusing.
read, how could that be? I'm just thinking
I-
ahead.
I'm kind of with Marcia, duplicate.
Cumulative, yeah, I am
Du-
too.
Instead of
Duplicate
keeping-
instead of cumulative.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to, you can write cumulative comments as you wish, but if you're doing the same comment over and over again,
Yeah,
you know, encourage,
yeah, I
you've
would
got the
like
same
To
point.
group them.
yeah. I put duplicate / same.
Yeah,
you know.
the wording could change this whole way we're looking at it.
I just changed it to avoid duplicative comments.
There you
Certain,
go.
and that's good.
That makes sense.
It's a bigger word than
Yeah,
that.
it's a- yeah, me
But
too.
like I said,
We need a
if
definition
you,
of that
if
behind
you
it.
want, if you want it struck altogether, I'm fine with that too. I don't think it prevents you from asking a member of a particular group to deliver comments on behalf of all of those.
No, I mean, the next sentence says there's no requirement.
No,
Right.
there is no.
So-
By changing those words, it takes the guessing out of it,
That's fine.
Yeah.
takes the definition out.
Right.
Section 10, closed session. This
Yeah.
is where the Open Meetings Act is mentioned several times.
I think that's good, but I think people sometimes think that when we go into closed session, we're hiding things behind their backs. And sometimes decisions have to be made in private. That's just the way it is, especially when you're dealing with a lawsuit that says, you know, things can't be disclosed until the people have signed, so.
Well, there aren't any,
There are
let
no
me correct
decisions.
that, there aren't any decisions ever made in closed session. But there are times when your lawyer, me, has to communicate confidential and privileged information to the board. And I can't do that in an open session. That's done by either way of an attorney-client privileged communications, like written correspondence, legal opinion. You can adjourn to closed session to discuss trial or settlement strategy in connection with pending litigation, which is also important, because if you were forced to negotiate or disclose your trial strategy in public, it would be a disservice to the
Right.
taxpayers.
Oh,
Same way with union negotiations.
Yeah, and I think what I'm saying is there a way we could have something that kind of summarized that on the wall outside? So when we went into a closed session, the people will kind of understand what it is that closed session
Well,
means to us.
that should be, the purpose should be stated, it's required to be stated
The chair could handle
as part of the
that. Okay, the chair
motion,
can
right,
handle
the
that.
reason.
It'd probably be more effective anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I said, you know, you were adjourning to closed session pursuant to section 8H, that is to consider material that is exempt by state or federal law. That is a written confidential legal opinion with the county attorney. If you're going to adjourn to closed session to discuss the acquisition of real property, that's a different section, but the reason has to be stated on the
Right.
record.
Okay.
So-
But does it have to be stated, or just the numbers and letters?
Well, if you could do either one, right? You could do it by section number, or you could do it by what it is, like
What it is, please.
pending
We don't
litigation.
memorize this.
Right.
Pending litigation, written attorney confidential legal opinion, acquisition of real property, negotiation of collective bargaining agreement, all of which are permitted pursuant to specific statutory numbers, but it doesn't give people, lay people, the understanding of what those are unless you state those purposes. So I always encourage you to state those purposes because it's clear then what it is that you're doing.
Okay.
We just,
Go ahead.
yeah, up here, we put OMA and cross out Open Meetings Act of 1976. I prefer that we leave the whole act in.
We defined that earlier
Oh,
and then
we do?
use
Okay.
the term OMA.
OMA, okay, all right. Because new board members don't always remember.
No,
The
so,
acronyms mean.
right,
Yeah.
so that acronym is defined earlier as the Open Meetings
Okay.
Act.
And we added number 12. That's good. It says the commissioners may be asked to sign confidentiality agreement prior to closed session discussion. Are they required to sign one in the beginning of the year?
Well, that was crossed out, so.
But do we sign one at the beginning of the year?
Not necessarily.
I don't have any clients that sign a
Okay.
confidentiality agreement. Disclosing closed session minutes or discussions may be a criminal offense. I would think that would be enough.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I agree with that.
It's up to $2,000 fine or 90 days in jail.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
And people have gone to jail over it,
Oh,
so
okay.
it does happen. It's
Oh.
rare, but it does happen.
Okay. I'm glad it wasn't me. All right, moving on, let's see. Next page. We crossed out the whole page.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
There, some of
Okay,
these
you wanna explain?
things, some of these things are located elsewhere, so just
Okay.
because you see
Right.
them struck here doesn't
Okay,
mean they're not.
I did see some of them that were, okay.
Yes, a lot of the stuff discussion already we already had
Okay.
on that.
Public hearings. Looks good to me.
Reason why we Xed out strategic planning?
Say that again, Marcia?
Why are we Xing out strategic planning?
Because we call it something different now. I think, isn't that what, strategic planning, isn't that what we used to call community development and strategic planning?
We have a committee, but
Right, we have a
it's not
committee.
really strategic planning. What I know of strategic planning. You know, where we set goals for.
I think the discussion, if I recall, it's still a meeting, so you still gotta schedule a meeting. I mean, we can have different types of meetings every week, every month.
Right.
So
So
you
it
don't
would
need
be a
specifically,
planning session type work.
you don't need specifically call it strategic plan, because you have meetings set up every month anyway, so we're still gonna
No,
have
but
them.
we really don't like look big picture, you know, plan 5 years out. Like, I mean, I've been in the nonprofit world and,
Yeah.
you know, strategic planning is kind of what you go by and what you're
Yeah.
striving for, and I don't see
We're
that
under a
we have
5-year
that.
one, and so it was done
We
prior
used
to
to do
your.
it, yeah.
So we're working on updating that and presenting that again, just to show you what our 5-year plan looks like, and we're gonna do that in January.
Okay, all right,
But
okay,
yeah, we're on a 5-year rotation. I
Okay.
think we're into 3 years now.
okay.
Sound right, Beth?
So 2017 to
Yeah.
2022.
17 is when we established it.
The county board chair, after consulting with the committee chair and board vice chair, may cancel a meeting for any reason and pursuant to the.
We just took out the weather part on that, if you remember, because there could be other reasons other than weather.
I see, okay.
That's all that was doing.
Okay, do we still, because as a general rule, the weather part is left to the sheriff, because he's got police up. people
We
on roads.
received their input.
Okay.
Same with the
All
road
right.
commission, we received their
Perfect,
input.
okay. All right.
We'll just cancel school in Kalamazoo for
Oh, did they?
security.
Bomb threats.
Oh. Move that.
Yeah, and then somebody else's computer.
On to page 16. Board rules. Board officers, chairman.
On the agenda format, are we gonna put in board comments toward the end?
Where do you see board?
Yeah, that comes up.
That's under 17.
Oh, order of business.
Oh,
That's
final
on
board,
17.
okay, I see it there in red.
I think that's, at the MAC meeting, that was one of the things that they mentioned that I thought was important for us to have, an opportunity, especially after we hear, the
Oh,
residents' concerns. I think we need to be able to address as many of those as possible generically, not, get into a, one-way argument, but
I think final board comments are very, very important.
I do too. I'd like to stand.
So I want to move back to page 16 under the chairperson. So the first rule, the board, it states that the first meeting in January session each year shall choose by roll call or secret ballot if requested one of its members to be chairperson. So that's every year, and then that conflicts with the second rule that states that it's a 2-year term.
Yeah, we need to change that.
And I think also, the law is very clear that the vice chair can only have a 1-year term, and that needs to be very clear because it's different than a possible 2-year term for your chair. The vice chair statutorily has to be elected for a 1-year term, and it can't be by secret ballot.
Yeah, that's in section 2 on 17.
Okay.
When I first got elected, Ken, you were on 2-year terms.
Yeah.
No,
You weren't? Okay, I was.
no, I think Chairman Beatty was the last
Okay.
2-year term. Everybody else thereafter was a 1-year term.
I guess we just kept electing you, so you did it, and you thought.
Nobody
I
trusts
was
you more than one way at a time.
The prohibition against a secret ballot for the vice chair is in the
In the
In the law,
Statute.
in the law, the only secret ballot that can ever be used for an election is for the chair of the board.
Okay.
And that is also statute.
Statute.
So are we going to change those?
Yeah, we're gonna have to, but I suspect that we'll change it by saying, if the chairperson by statute is elected to a 2-year term, then that person will not need to be reelected pursuant to that. But if it is a 1-year term, then that.
But this rule says shall be elected, so it's not, the chair isn't automatically a 2-year term?
Yes,
It is now.
it is now, but it was not before.
No,
it
the
could go back
statute
to
says
one
it's a
next time.
2-year
the
term
statute says
unless
it's-
your board adopts
changes
a
it.
resolution saying that you want a 1-year term.
Okay, thank
So
you.
the
That's what-
statute
So it's a statutory 2-year term
Okay.
for the chair unless you say you want a 1-year, and that's the resolution that this board has adopted in the past, is for your chairs after Chairman Paul Beatty to be a 1-year term.
Yes,
Which
Mike,
is, sorry, which is the reference you see, 46.3, so number 4.
I just like to just ask a question, maybe Mike can answer this. We've done this every year, we go through these rules and change it, and I think they got out of hand a little bit here because they tried to cover some things that nobody even remembers why we put them in. But wouldn't it make more sense to sort of have one for every board of commissioners in the state of Michigan?
Oh, a uniform set by the legislature? Well, I guess we can debate.
I know.
I guess we can debate that. But currently, the state law does not provide one set of rules for every county, other than the rules that are governed by statute, right? I mean, but those are statutory provisions and don't dictate the day-to-day type of
But
stuff.
you're the attorney for another county,
Yes.
so do they do the same thing every
No.
year? No.
Just us.
No, every municipality is somewhat different in terms of what they want for their own governance, in terms of their statutory authority, whether it's cities, townships, counties, villages.
just over the years, a lot of time has been spent.
Yeah.
Because I remember, is Lisa
We,
here?
I was chair one year with you on my committee when I was a county commissioner. We spent hours on there, but one of the things that these never have addressed is the conflict of interest. And in some of the county commission rules, they provide that if you have a conflict of interest, that you must state it before you can, and you can't vote on it, you've got to say what it is. So when you look at some of these, while these may look cumbersome and long, we've gone through lots of other counties looking at their rules and things, and they have things in here that you don't address. So I think every county, like the council said, they do them based on their needs and they don't do them every year.
So page 18?
Wait a minute. Back to 17. Number 7, public comment. And it's always said on an agenda item. Why are we changing it to committee board report item?
It's the same thing. Is that, it's the same thing, is that the reason?
But will the public understand that?
They're saying both committee and board.
You know,
Board report, so an agenda item equals board report?
Yeah, you still make a comment. Make sure we included the committee and
But wouldn't it be easier, like Marcia's saying, just to say agenda item?
Yeah.
Well,
No.
Public comment, no.
It would for me.
I mean, it could be, well,
It's-
committee
It
or-
does lead to confusion.
yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like it the way it was worded myself on an agenda item, because sometimes the
It's easy.
administrator has a report that people want to comment on too, so I think you're
I'm
gonna.
trying to visualize what a difference would be at one time or another changing the
I was
agenda
trying to do that too.
uh,
Just confusing.
sometimes a-
Number 7.
Yeah.
Sometimes a board report, maybe just a board report without any action. So it's not on the agenda for action, it's there.
Like the, when we get resolutions from other counties. I mean,
But that would come in most likely in the final comment.
Yes, that could come under public comment on open.
I don't have a problem leaving it as an agenda item.
I'm
I
more
would rather-
comfortable
me
with
too.
just agenda.
All right.
I
I
like
think,
agenda too.
I think that people will understand.
Thank you.
It's scheduled.
You won something, Marcia.
I'm not sure what it was. There was no prize, I guess.
No prize. The public understands it.
So we're gonna change that on page 17, Andy.
Yeah.
see something on page 19?
I have a question, not that, it's not really important, but in number 3, if a commissioner answers pass, then does his name get called again before the chairman? Yeah, see what I'm getting at?
Not the way I read it. It says at the conclusion of the roll call.
And that's the way we operate right now, that it's the last, if you pass, or if there's more than one pass. I don't know how that would work, but if there's a pass, you're the last one to vote.
So you vote after the chairman?
Well, that's what we're doing now, I don't,
I'm just curious.
Is that how we do it now?
Right.
What should be the way?
Yes.
What was the question?
Doesn't, I mean, how should we be doing
We're doing it right. When they pass, it comes at the end.
it? Okay.
that right, to come back to you?
But why would you do that in front of the chair? Why would you not want the chair to be the final vote?
It should be, yeah.
Correct.
I don't.
Because if you're on a very hot subject,
The chair isn't.
you would
the
have
last
4
person
people
vote.
pass.
Chair is always the last person to vote. I always vote
Everything,
last.
right?
I always vote last.
Yeah, right.
Nancy?
Not always. on a
There's
pass,
Nancy
it's
right
not
there.
always.
Nancy, we've got a
Nancy will
question.
Who's out here talking Holden Township business?
We've got a question for you.
Nancy.
What is that?
The roll call is, the roll is called in alphabetical order and rotation, except that the presiding officer's name is called last. The debate is finished when one person has answered the roll call. If a member passes, his or her name will be called again at the conclusion of the roll, and the chair will announce the final result before or after the chairman votes.
We do the roll call all the way through, and when they pass, I go back to the person that passed, and then I come back to the chair
That's what I
again.
thought.
That's the way it should
That's
be.
the way it should be.
Then the chair gets to,
That's what we thought.
The chair that makes the
the
final.
chair always has
The
the
reason-
final vote to keep in the rotation, and this is what I do follow.
So the reason I asked that was so that the chair would be the tiebreaker if it's
Could be.
4-4.
Yeah.
You were just a gutless wonder. But you could be.
Yeah, you make the decision.
I got a call.
Good question.
It is.
That was a good question.
The names and reservation.
Don't we record all votes?
So when the clerk takes the votes, you use a little sheet of paper with
I do.
everybody's name. So you write on that what the number of the motion is or the item on the agenda, and that is attached to the final record.
And it's retained.
No, well, you have to do that. If we record it, you won't have to do it like that, will you?
Well, I still have to keep my records.
Okay.
And once you approve your minutes today, then the minutes, you're approving the minutes from your last meeting on October 22nd. So we always have the 2 types of availabilities.
Okay.
And remember, while your corporate counsel is here giving you instruction, every one of the 83 county clerks are being given training and requirements of what we have to do. In fact, Jeannie and I are going on December 1st and 2nd for training of the county clerks. So I only say that to you because we've had some conversation about what we're told to do as the county clerk versus that type of situation.
Okay.
Can I ask why we took out the closed debate?
My question also.
Where are we?
It's in Robert's rules.
Page 20. It's in Robert's rules, but wouldn't it be useful to have it here too?
It's, some of that has been moved. To page, well, some of it's still included on page 24.
Yes, it did. And we did.
Does it say the same thing?
I want you
Oh. Where is it on page 24?
Where we talk about, limit or extend debate in the subsidiary motion.
Is that at the end?
Second paragraph, Marcia.
Second paragraph?
Where are we at?
Privileged motion?
Yeah.
Oh, subsidiary motion.
I don't think,
What page are we on?
She was asking on page 20,
4.
and Mike was saying it refers it to it over on 24, basically paragraph 2.
I think it's clearer on page 20.
What exactly has to happen?
Well, we wondered why this was taken out, but, and I don't see anything that says closed debate?
It's not like when you talk about a closed debate, you're talking about even this paragraph references a call of a question, right? That's not something that needs to be in your rules that exists anyways if you make the motion. It's not like the rule gives you the right to do it, you would have the right to make that motion anyways.
Well, the drain commissioner made a motion the other day to call the question, and I told him not till everybody had spoken. So I was incorrect.
No, you're fine, because it
You
wasn't
were
a second
correct.
to it.
Oh,
No, it
okay.
wasn't
Oh,
second.
okay, there wasn't a second, okay.
It was a second.
There was a second?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
seconded it.
I missed it.
Wait a minute, just so I
I
understand.
seconded it.
If somebody calls or makes a motion to call the question, then it requires a two-thirds vote to uphold that?
It requires a majority vote, I believe.
It
It
says
says
two-thirds here.
two-thirds.
Well, it's crossed out, but
I think that's what we put in there, and I think it's a majority.
The original one said 2/3. We've scratched that, so
Right.
we're ahead. Whether it's necessary.
I'm just thinking about Robert's rules. I thought
Yeah,
it was
what
just a
we should
majority
be-
vote.
And we're not
Following the
following,
language.
we're not
No.
following Robert's Rules of Order, we're following the Open Meetings Act. What does the Open Meetings
we're
Act
not
say
really
about this?
following Robert's.
Not,
rule. We use
not,
it.
the change to the rules says you'll use Robert's rules as a guide, but not strictly adhere to its provisions. And the reason for that, and this is really a board decision, is because municipalities and the manner in which you address your business does not neatly fit into Robert's rules all of the time. And so on occasion, you will have a process or procedure that doesn't neatly fit within that, and then it raises an element of risk, where on one hand, you said you're strictly going to follow Robert's rules,
I see.
and on the other hand,
I
being
see.
able to give them some flexibility with whatever situation might come up, and then address that situation as you would, following as a guide Robert's rules, but not strict adherence. Which gives rise to then a legal challenge on the process versus one where you might use it as a guide, but not strictly adhere to its provisions.
I guess I feel like in a situation where, you know, you don't like what the guy just said, and you call for the question, I think everybody should have a chance to voice their opinion before you call for the question.
Yeah, and, you know, typically members.
If I'm wrong, I need to know.
Well, it does take precedence, the motion, right? If there's a motion support and a vote on that effectively ends debate and then you vote.
But I thought calling the question, you didn't need a vote on that. You do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still a motion to call that question.
So if somebody says, I want to call the question, then that
You have to vote.
requires a
You
vote.
have to
And
vote.
that vote is a majority or two-thirds?
Two-thirds it says.
So it's
To
basically
end the
saying.
debate or,
To vote?
To,
And the
just
vote.
to end the debate and vote.
So would it be exactly the same as if somebody calls a table?
No,
No.
no,
It'd be a different set of rules.
yep.
table is.
Because you still need to vote on the
If you-
table
yeah, but
before
you-
you vote on,
I think you need to vote on whatever motion was presented first.
but a call to question and a call to table take priority.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so they require a separate vote immediately if
Yes.
there's a second,
Yep.
correct? So they are literally the same.
No, the table means they get.
Well, and the end result, but the
Right,
procedure, I'm talking
yes, the
procedure
procedure
is
is
the
the
same.
same.
Yeah, the end result's different, but the procedure is exactly the same.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a privileged motion, it comes out.
So as long as there's a second, that becomes priority.
Then you vote on that
Right.
motion, if it fails or.
Same
passes.
procedure as a table, just different entity.
So,
Yes.
I have a copy of the summary of the open meetings act by Cole Stoker, I think I got it at orientation. There's nothing in here about calling the question,
No, there wouldn't be. in the open
Two-thirds
meeting.
vote.
so it would be Robert's rules then.
And we're kind of using a combination of the two as it fits us.
Robert's rules.
Yes, yes.
It says it needs a two-thirds.
Well, that's why I think it needs to be
That's why it
clear.
needs to be clear.
Yeah.
And I think we did agree on a modified Robert's rules back some time ago.
But we just don't say we're following Robert's rules, because if we don't follow it completely.
Right, I think
we could be in trouble.
when Mike first brought it up, we did a modified Robert's rules, is what we agreed to.
And that's why we have these.
Right.
Well, I would suggest that we keep that wording on page 20, just because I don't think it's clear on page 24 what the
But
process
it does says, call for the question, that second one.
is
It's
under
not-
privileged motion.
It's not under debate. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of calling the
So
question.
it is correct to get rid of it.
So if they call for the question and it's supported, then
Call for the
it's
question is
supposed
call
to be
for order
voted
of the
on
day.
immediately without any more discussion. And then it has to
I
be
think I have
two-thirds
a
vote.
different page. Are you on?
And if you don't get the two-thirds, you're back to discussion.
So are you saying 2/3 of the motion in front of us? or
Of the
2/3
question.
Of the question, yeah.
So if, like, when she called for debate, and I supported that, that was supposed to end debate and go for the vote for the question.
She said
And then
she
it had to
called
be
for
a
the question.
two-thirds vote on whether to end debate.
I don't think we've ever voted on calling the question. It doesn't happen very
On
often.
ending the.
It doesn't happen often, no. No, it could.
No,
And I
because
just-
we don't, yeah,
Yeah, and I
I'm not
didn't
used
know
to
to do it.
using it.
Yeah, I think the thoughts here and the idea is that call for the vote or call for the question is a motion.
It is,
And you need a second.
It's an undebatable
You need
motion.
to deal with
Yeah.
it
Okay.
as
yeah.
up or down vote, 2/3, I guess. And then if that fails, then you move on to your debate.
Right. So we need a 60.
If it doesn't fail, then you move directly into the
Vote for that.
vote for the other.
You're tired of doing this.
No, I mean, these are all questions that, okay, I call the question, then it seems like then we just vote.
Well, it has to be supported.
I
Has
know,
to be
but I-
supported
We
and
have to
voted on.
vote on.
But it's supposed
I
to
don't
be voted
think,
on,
I don't
and that's
think
the
we ever
purpose
did
of
that
it.
part,
I don't think we ever did that part. I think you're right.
but we will now.
But we will know.
Now
We all know
Yes, we
what's
will.
right. We all know what's right. Bob figured it out. We're good.
So
So
we're
we're gonna
keeping
leave this
page
in?
20?
I'm fine with it. It sounds like you guys, unless you.
Yeah, I'd probably move it to page 23.
Okay,
Okay, that's fine.
as long as you keep it in.
Page 23, under,
Under Rule
Motions
7,
and
resolutions,
resolutions.
proclamations, and tributes.
I think I must have different numbering.
So on page 23.
Oh, I see. Under where?
Under motions and seconds, we can insert it in there.
Okay.
Either as a new section 2 or as, push section 2 to section 3.
Well, I was looking for a number, not a Roman numeral.
So any questions on 21 or 22?
I have a question. I was trying to look it up here. I had it somewhere. I saved it somewhere, but of course I can't find it. I'll come back to that.
We all agreed to cross section 10, 11, 12, and 13 last time we did.
Yeah. that's
So on to page 23.
Do we have something in there about, we're missing conflict of interest?
That's
Somewhere
later.
else?
That comes in later.
Okay, that comes in later.
Madam Chair, on page 23, at one time, we used to have something in there that a person presenting a motion from the floor, once it had been agreed to, would give it to the clerk in writing. Because I have sometimes no idea what is going on, and yet I have to include that motion in the minutes, and I get confused. And we have to go back and we have to listen 2 and 3 times sometimes to the recorder to see what the motion was. And I was wondering if there, after you've approved it, or somewhere that the person presenting the motion would, would present it in writing to the county clerk for the minutes.
Okay.
So the motionee would be responsible for handing it to you by the end of the meeting, or at the end of the meeting?
Yes. They could give it to you verbally and you all vote on it and everything, but at the end of the meeting, they would give us then in writing because hopefully they're reading from that written motion to all of you on what their motion is that they're wanting you to adopt or defeat or something.
We have that rule here already, it's page 23 pretty much, and we could just cross out at the request of the chairperson, just that any motion shall be put in writing.
But it doesn't say to the county clerk.
Yeah, I'm saying take that at the request of the chairperson out.
Well, I don't want to mess with that. I'm just saying, at
That's
the end of a
right.
meeting, that,
Wait, I just have a thought on that. That's kind of dangerous, because you could make a motion and then by the time they give it to you, it could be different.
well, it shouldn't be.
No,
What it shouldn't be and what happens might be two different things.
She would remember that. I mean, we're talking a half hour.
okay.
I mean, if we put
called trust.
we put a motion and then the written one says we all get a raise,
But,
that's different.
Yeah, but I understand, I think, Commissioner's point, which is if you have a motion and then the motion is amended, the amendment would have to also be in writing, so it can get a little confusing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I would say it becomes the responsibility of the motionee to meet with the clerk at the end of the meeting. That's how I would perceive what
But
you're
they
trying
can't
to say.
change it. I mean, once
Well,
you've
obviously.
approved, then that's what's going to be in the minutes.
Well, maybe it should be presented to the chair and the clerk, I'm just guessing.
You know, I want the chair to always be the one, whatever your rules are here. I just wanted to make reference to the point that we've had occasions where there were amendments and they were changed, and I wasn't sure where we even were.
So right now it reads, any motion shall be put in writing at the request of the chairperson or any member of the board. What's not included in there is, I suppose, is after adoption, the adopted motion shall be provided to the county clerk.
I would agree and
Yes.
support that.
I would too.
I think that's the right way to say it.
Back to page 22, commissioners are at the top, section 9, was crossed out. We are obliged to vote on action items before them unless conflict occurs. Why did we take that?
Conflict occurs page is addressed in here, I think,
Okay,
another section.
it's just been moved, okay.
Page
So we still
27.
have to vote.
Yeah.
And there's still something that says we have to vote.
And I wanted to go back.
Look at page 27 real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see if that answers your question.
Where,
On number 1, are you talking about?
So you're just saying, period, if any, all commissioners are required to vote, period, at the end.
yeah, I thought where were.
No, not if there's a conflict of interest.
Well, no, except if
Yes,
there's a conflict,
you
but
are.
I think that should.
But not by
be-
rule, by case law and
By law.
and statute.
You're
Yeah,
required
you
to
have
vote
a
by law.
fiduciary responsibility to cast a vote where you're
Right.
not conflicted.
Why?
I don't need,
Why shouldn't that be in here? Just for.
I don't think you
We're
need a
not gonna
rule.
read the
Right,
law.
you gotta follow the law.
I know, but how, we don't have legal legal researchers to look this stuff up
Well,
for
I
us.
think people have, over the years, people have abstained and never explained why they abstained.
I mean, you're supposed to.
Do that.
And then I can remember saying, well, why did you abstain? It's not your business.
Usually, I usually try and explain why I abstain.
So we're not allowed to abstain unless it's a conflict, is that correct?
that's right, you have an obligation to vote.
Okay, fine.
But,
Are we
but I think that
obligated to
should be
explain-
stated in here.
And are we required to explain the conflict of interest?
It's self-reporting.
I would think, you know,
Would make sense.
it would,
Well, on page 28, top sentence there, I think it says the chair shall report disclosure at the meeting. The conflict of interest.
commissioners are not required to, and that's been crossed out. The chair shall report the disclosure at the meeting and the disclosure shall be reflected in the minutes of the meeting. If a member plans not to attend a meeting, at which he or she has reason to believe that the board, commission, or committee will act in a manner in which the member has a conflict of interest, he or she shall disclose to the chair of the meeting, that's meeting is spelled wrong, all facts, materials to the conflict of interest, the chair shall report. So evidently you need to say that. You need to state your conflict of interest, and if you're not there and you chose not to be there because of a conflict of interest, the board chair has to disclose that.
So I'll bring up one other thing. I think Commissioner Snyder suggested this once before, but I checked in other counties, and some of them do that, some don't. Is the motion itself separated from the resolution and proclamations, that the motions are referred to committee and then brought to the committee, which would resolve the problem of making sure we get the right language written. Commissioner Snyder has mentioned that before, so I wanted to bring that up in discussion.
I think that should be,
So everything has to go through a committee first?
Motion.
Almost.
When you say everything.
All motions.
the only thing I would recommend that doesn't have to go before a committee would be a resolution, you know.
Which would
Well,
separate.
not substance resolutions.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily agree with that. A lot of things happen pretty quick at these board meetings, and sometimes motions are made at board meetings because they don't necessarily fit in a committee, or
Well, pretty much I can't imagine that we would have a motion that was that important that didn't fit in the committee. What would you, do you have something that?
well, there's a lot of motions that are made during board meetings that don't come out of committee, or
Right, and we're asking that they do. If you have a motion, you would refer it to a committee.
A motion for action, am I correct? That's
Yes.
what we're discussing.
Yes.
Motion for action.
Or spend money, which is
Right,
action.
or
An
financial.
actionable motion, yes.
Okay. But now that would not be the same as a friendly amendment.
Amendment or resolution, or
Okay, but a friendly amendment could be money.
the friendly amendments to a motion that's already on
To
the
the
table.
motion that's already on the floor.
Right.
Okay. I'm trying to make sure we're all clear here on this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Commissioner Larry, I mean, there are pros and cons. I just want to make sure that we discuss that again, because I know Commissioner Snyder's mentioned that a couple times.
But non-substance resolutions would have no bearing on these rules. So like, say,
Right,
Commissioner Wilkins wanted to do a church resolution for Sunday and it's Thursday.
right.
That's a no substance
Right,
resolution.
or we have a Boy Scout that's done
Or,
the,
yeah, Boy Scouts,
Eagle
Girl
Scout
Scouts,
or
and there's a
something.
meeting coming up in a timely
Right.
fact where we need a resolution.
That has no effect on county policy.
Right.
And that's,
Only a
I
motion
think
that
that should
requires
be-
action then.
Anything that requires an amendment or a change to county policy at all should go back to the committee before it comes to the board.
Other counties do that as an option. Not all of them do, but there are some that do that.
I think they should. I mean, is that
So-
in here?
By doing that, we will eliminate the other part about the the two commissioners support them, if we do this.
Yes.
It would
But-
eliminate that.
But when
Which is
somebody,
good.
and I don't think there's a problem with somebody bringing up a motion that, at any meeting, that we would automatically say, oh, that's a great idea, let's bring that back to this committee. So,
Well, so,
you know,
yes.
let's send it through the committee. It
So
just
if it's
doesn't
something
get
that
voted
needs
on right
future
there.
reference or future talk or discussion, we should do it in a committee anyway.
Yeah.
Because it typically involves money.
Yeah. Or a change in county policy, which is something that needs to be done with forethought.
So by adopting this, we would eliminate the three-person commissioner rule.
Yes.
That would go away.
That would go away. I see that as a benefit.
I do too.
But does that
Well,
stop
sometimes
someone from
committees
making a
are two
motion?
people.
I'm sorry, Charles.
No, but it would
But
stop
does
us from
that
voting
stop
on
someone
it.
from
It would
making
stop
a
us from
motion?
voting
No,
on
it
it.
won't
Then
stop
It would
you.
go to, it doesn't stop you from
Let's just
making a
say you
motion.
make a
It would
motion,
just be referred back to the appropriate.
the
committee.
chair would say, let's send that to Ways and Means, or let's send that to Public Works.
Or transportation.
Or or the whatever agenda. But yet you could still make the
So can you
resolution for
do
a
that if they
church.
make a motion?
Good question.
Second?
And what about the would that mean that would have to go back to the subcommittee? Because it may never come out of subcommittee, depending on the chair and
Give an
vice chair.
example, Zach.
Well, Planned Parenthood, for instance.
Okay.
That may, if that went back to subcommittee, it may never would have came out.
Well, it would have, because it was a county need.
Yeah, we
It
need.
was a county
Okay,
need.
let's talk about taking the unions out of the purchasing and procurement process. if that had went back to a subcommittee, it may not have came out of the subcommittee.
That is a valid point. We should have sent that back to Ways and Means if we adopt this.
So this could go back to one committee and then it doesn't get brought out of subcommittee, you're gonna send it back to another committee to come back out? This could just,
Maybe it dies.
Yeah, it could just,
There's got to be a compromise here, Mike. He's got a valid point, like
Yep.
the prevailing wage. That was a pretty spontaneous vote.
If the board votes on to go to the subcommittee, I don't think, I mean, you can make the rules, right? If the board says go to the subcommittee vice chair
So you're,
should not have that authority to not bring it back forward.
so what you're
well,
saying
that's
is
the
we
way it
have
works
the
right now, that's many motions don't come out.
but I don't
of
think
subcommittee.
I don't think the committee, I don't think you should have the authority to squash a motion presented by a commissioner at the committee level. It should be vetted out there and make sure that all the questions are answered. I mean,
So
if there's
if-
finance or anything, but it should come back one way or the
Susan,
other.
that happens in Washington every day.
And Lansing.
And that's the role of the chair.
Things die in committee all the
Sometimes it's
time.
actually a benefit, and we've had that before.
And
where
besides,
things
there's
have
reason
gotten
for it.
killed Because, you know, proper steps needed to be taken before they're brought forward, so.
Well, a proper motion would be like, I want to make a motion, I recommend we send it to committee, and I'm asking for the approval. Is that what how we're saying it?
No,
But-
that's fine, but I understand his point. is
Right,
that
his
you come
point.
back to the committee, and the committee chair can decide that I want to remove that from my agenda.
Right.